Hi friends, it's Robin with Pale Bird Designs, and welcome back to Basics Bootcamp Tumbler Edition, where myself and two other amazing artists will be sharing weekly videos with all the best tips, tricks, and tumbler making secrets. So let's get into it. This week I'm going to talk about ombreing fine glitter. So I'm going to start by basing my cup. I do a light sand with my sanding block, and then I go in with my darker color spray paint, keeping my tumbler pretty angled and my bottle aimed about 2 inches below where I actually want the paint to hit. And then short, quick bursts so you don't get too many streaks. And then I do the same thing by flipping the cup over and going in with my lighter color. I do like to put my darker color about 3/4 of the way up the cup, so I get a nice blend in between those two. And then once you're done with that, let it dry, and then add about 7 milliliters of epoxy to your cup. And we're going to start with our dark color. I like to start with the big side open until I get about 1 inch to 1/2 inch of the dark blue paint uncovered. And then I'll flip over to the small side so I don't get as much glitter falling out at the same time. And I keep it really high above my cup. I'm probably about 12 inches above, and I just kind of sprinkle it and let it fall kind of naturally, leaving some gaps so I can move in with my other color, and then I'll go back over it again with the dark color. So we're going to take bottlenose next. Same thing, I start with the big side towards the top, keeping the cup really angled and let it fall down naturally until I have about 1 inch to 1/2 inch left of the paint showing, especially where those two ombres meet each other, because I don't want too much of one color in that spot. So you'll see me flip back over to the small side, keeping my glitter above, and I kind of aim about 1 inch above where I want the glitter to actually fall and let it blend pretty naturally into itself. And then once I'm happy with the coverage, I will let this spin until it dries and then add another coat of epoxy. If you think you need a little bit more of your darker color, you can always go back in. I like to work with the small side on this and just kind of sprinkle it over the top and let it stick where it's going to. Tap off any excess, and then spin to dry. While your cup's spinning, you can get your decals ready. We have a couple of free templates available on my website that Kimberly made. So once you do your checkout process, you're going to download your files. It'll pop up in that lower left-hand corner of your screen, and then once you click it, it'll open up your box. You do have to extract your files, and then I'll open a new tab, and then you can just drag and drop those extracted ones. It is a silhouette and an SVG, so it should work on any program you're using. We'll use the silhouette one since that's what you can use with the basic. And then you just drag and drop it in. Sometimes it doesn't load in correctly, so I have to re-click it. That's just sometimes the computer gets mad at me. So you'll see me go back into my file folder. It's on my other screen, but I just drag it back in until it loads correctly so I can actually move it around. And then you'll resize to what you want it to be on your tumbler. I do typically about 3 inches across on my 20 ounces. I feel like that's a really good size for them. And because of the color of the vinyl I'm using and the color of the cup, I am not going to offset this decal. So once your size is you're happy with your size, you're going to send it to your machine on your cut settings for whatever type of vinyl you're using. I am using a holographic silver, so I go a little bit harder than a regular 631 vinyl. And then you'll cut it out. Once that's done, my camera didn't film my weeding process of it, but once it's all done weeding, I will put it on a piece of transfer tape, rub it down really well with one of my squeegees, and then it's ready to be put on my tumbler. I like to use my tumbler stand to help me line it up. And then we're just going to eyeball it a little bit from the top. And then make sure it's pressed on really well before you pull up your transfer tape. I like to pull down and leave it close to the cup because I feel like I get less lift that way on all of those little pieces. And any of the tiny pieces that I have to weed, I do normally weed on my tumbler like you'll see me doing here. There's little circles with dots inside of them that I will weed on the tumbler because it's frankly a lot easier. And once all of these little dots are done, you will be ready for your next coat of epoxy. One little circle that didn't want to stick. And now it'll be ready for what should be its final coat of epoxy, especially with the fine glitter. I do like to start in the middle when I'm doing a decal coat, just to make sure I get good coverage there. And then I take the epoxy top to bottom, same as you would do any other layer. And that's all for this week. Hopefully this helped you. Ombraying was one of the hardest things that I had to learn, and I found that height really is the secret, and patience. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and hope to see you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Bye, friends. And just a quick little pop in so you can see that ombre a little bit closer up. Have a great week.